My blind date sent my ex-wife to reject me. That's the sentence I never thought I'd say out loud. But it's exactly what happened the night I sat alone at table 7 waiting for a stranger named Jade. I'm Caleb Warren, 41, an architect who spends his days saving old buildings everyone else wants to tear down. And I'd shown up early like I always do, water in front of me, no expectations in my chest. The woman who walked through that door wasn't my blind date. She was the woman I divorced 3 years ago. Diane. The one who left because she said I wasn't enough, the one who signed the papers across the same table I once thought we'd grow old at. She was supposed to deliver an apology and leave. She was supposed to say Jade is sorry, this isn't happening, and walk back out into the night. But she sat down. And 45 minutes into a conversation neither of us planned, with her wine barely touched and my chest doing something I hadn't let it do in years, she looked at me and said the 8 words that broke my whole evening open. Why don't you take me out instead? So why would the woman who walked away from me beg to come back through the wrong door? What happened in 7 years of marriage that she spent 3 years trying to forget? And why did the blind date I never wanted turn out to be the only one that ever mattered? Stay with me, because what she confessed before dessert arrived is the part nobody believes when I tell it now. Let me take you back to the 10 minutes before she walked in, when I almost didn't go inside at all. I was sitting in my truck in the parking lot, engine off, watching the rain start to dot the windshield. My friend Marcus had set this up. He'd asked me 3 times. 3. That's the only reason I said yes, because I don't like letting people down, and because 3 years alone teaches you that no gets easier to say every time until one day you can't remember how to say yes to anything. I didn't want a stranger. I wanted my couch and a book and the quiet I'd finally made peace with. But I went in anyway. That's just who I am. My body shows up even when my heart's dragging behind it. Ember and oak smelled like rosemary and wood smoke. Warm amber light, the kind of place that's been the same for years and isn't trying to impress anybody. I took the table by the window so I'd see the door. I ordered water. I didn't bring a book to hide behind. I just sat there and watched the street turn shiny and orange under the rain. The host's name was Priya. I read it off her badge and thanked her by it, and she looked a little surprised, the way people do when you treat them like a person instead of furniture. Then the door opened. A woman shook out an umbrella, folded it down, scanned the room the way you do when you're looking for a face you've never seen. Except I knew that face. I knew the way she stood. I knew the way her shoulders set when she was nervous. I'd watched the back of that head across 1,000 breakfast tables. My stomach dropped through the floor. Diane. She saw me at the exact same second, and I watched her whole body freeze, one hand still gripping that umbrella, her mouth opening like she was about to say a name that wasn't going to be Jade. For a moment neither of us moved. The rain hammered the glass. Somewhere a fork scraped a plate. She could have turned around. She could have walked right back out into the storm, and I'd have spent the night thinking I got stood up by a stranger. Instead, she walked toward me, slow, careful, like every step cost her something. I stood halfway up, the way you do when you don't know whether to hug someone or shake their hand or run. Diane, I said, not a question, just her name, the way you say it when life hands you back something you stopped looking for. Hi, Caleb. She sat down across from me, in the seat where a stranger was supposed to be, and I realized my hands were shaking. Before I tell you what happened next, what she confessed across that table, and the 8 words that changed everything, do me one favor. My ex-wife once told me I wasn't enough, that I was too quiet, too steady, not worth staying for. If you believe a good, steady man deserves a second chance at love, prove her wrong right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss a single moment of how this ends. Let's show her she was wrong about people like me. Okay, back to table 7. Jade sent you, I said. It wasn't really a question. Diane set her umbrella against the wall and folded her hands in her lap like she was holding herself together. She panicked. She couldn't go through with it. She didn't know, Caleb, I swear. I didn't know it was you. She just said the name and the place. She let out a shaky breath. I almost didn't come in. I know. You couldn't possibly know that. You fixed your lipstick in the car, I said quietly. You always did that when you were stalling. I nodded toward the window. Reflection. Something moved across her face. Not embarrassment. Something older, deeper. Like a door creaking open on a room she'd locked years ago. A young server named Troy appeared, cheerful and clueless about the earthquake happening at his table. He took our drink orders. She asked for wine. The 30 seconds of small talk gave us both somewhere to put our hands. When he left, she straightened up. So, I've delivered the message. Jade is sorry. This isn't a real date. You can have your evening back. She reached for her purse. Don't go yet. The words surprised both of us. I hadn't planned them. Caleb, we can talk about Jade later. Or never. But you drove all the way here in the rain, and Troy just brought your wine. And I stopped, then said the true thing. I'd like to know how you actually are. Not the version you give people when they ask. She froze with her hand on the strap of her purse. Outside, a cab honked twice and rolled on. The rain softened against the glass. And then, slowly, she let the purse go. That's not a fair question, she said. Probably not. She stayed. We started talking. Carefully at first, like two people walking on ice, testing where it would hold. I told her about a building I was fighting to save. An old theater from the 1920s, the kind everyone wanted to bulldoze. The whole committee kept staring at the damage, I said. I kept looking at the bones underneath. The bones were still good. She went quiet for a second too long, and I knew she'd heard the second meaning. She just didn't say so. She told me about her work. Restructuring a whole hospital network. A job that swallowed her days whole. She was brilliant at it. You could hear it. But you could also hear something else underneath, something tired and threadbare. When did you get so tired? I asked. She blinked. What? You weren't tired before. When we were... I caught myself. A few years ago. You had more light in you. She turned her wine glass slowly on the table. I wasn't honest a few years ago, she said. And the whole table went silent in that particular way that means something important just landed and neither person wants to be the one who picks it up. I didn't push. I never pushed. She used to say that was the worst thing about me and the best thing all at once. Then she looked straight at me. Really looked. The way she'd been carefully not doing all night. I owe you an apology. You don't. I do. Her voice cracked, just slightly. Not for leaving. Maybe leaving was right. I honestly don't know anymore. But for the reason I gave. For what I said about you the night I walked out. She swallowed. I told you that you weren't ambitious enough. That you didn't want enough out of life. Her eyes were shining now. But that wasn't it, Caleb. You weren't unambitious. You were complete. You were already whole. And I was so broken and so hungry to prove something that I didn't know what to do with a man who already had peace. So I ran from it. I ran from the one thing I actually needed. The candle Troy had lit between us flickered. I couldn't speak for a second. I spent the first year thinking it was something I could fix, I finally said. The second year thinking there was nothing to fix at all. I gave her a small smile. Second year was better. She laughed. And it broke halfway into something wetter, a laugh and a sob holding hands. She pressed her fingers to her lips. Her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced down. I caught the words before she flipped it over. D. Renee says the blind date is Caleb? Are you there right now? Call me. She turned the phone face down and stared at it like it had shouted across the whole restaurant. Then she looked up at me, and there was something different in her eyes now. Scared, but steady, like a person standing at the edge of cold water, deciding whether to jump. Caleb, she said softly, can I say something completely insane? Say it, I told her. Whatever it is. She took a breath, the kind that lifts your whole chest, the kind you take before you jump off something high. Jade doesn't want this date, she said. And I came here to end it. Her hands were trembling around the wine glass. But I've been sitting here for 45 minutes feeling more like myself than I have in 3 years. She looked right at me, eyes brimming. So why don't you take me out instead? The whole restaurant seemed to go quiet. I heard the rain on the window, a fork clinking somewhere behind us. My own heartbeat, loud in my ears. 8 words. The same mouth that had once said I'm leaving was now asking to come back through the wrong door. And before I could answer, the bell over the door jingled. A young woman rushed in, shaking off an umbrella, scanning the room fast, and her eyes landed on Diane and froze. This was Jade. She'd panicked, then panicked harder, then driven over to apologize in person after all. She'd walked straight into a scene she could not have imagined. Diane? Jade's voice climbed. You two are laughing? Wait, he's your blind date? Caleb is. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh my gosh, he's your ex-husband. Renee just told me. I had no idea. I swear I had no. Jade, Diane said gently. It's okay. It is not okay. I sent you to break up a date that was your own. Jade looked like she might either laugh or cry or both. I am so sorry. To both of you. I'm gonna go. But Diane reached out and caught her wrist. Jade. She looked at her friend, then back at me, and her cheeks went pink the way they did right before she said something she'd been thinking but hadn't dared say out loud. I think you accidentally did the best thing anyone's done for me in years. Jade looked between us. Slowly, the start of a smile pulled at her mouth. Okay, she said quietly. Okay, I'm going. She squeezed Diane's shoulder once and slipped back out into the rain, glancing once through the glass before she disappeared down the sidewalk. And then it was just us again. Two people and a candle and a question hanging in the air. You don't even know who I am anymore, Diane said softly. 3 years is a long time. No, I agreed. Not yet. I reached across the table and put my hand over hers. But I'd like to find out. Same as the first time. She laughed. That real one, the one that takes over a whole face. And a tear slipped down and she didn't bother wiping it. We finished the cake Troy brought, 2 forks, melting at the edges. We talked until the restaurant emptied around us and the rain finally softened to mist. And when I walked her to her car, she stopped at the door and said, I almost didn't come in tonight. I know, I said. I'm glad your legs decided before your head did. She laughed all the way into the driver's seat. The weeks after weren't perfectly smooth. It'd be a lie to say they were. Diane was scared of falling back into something she'd once run from. I was scared of opening a door I'd spent 2 years learning to close. We went slow. Coffee after her early meetings. Long walks past the old theater I was saving. Watching the scaffolding come down piece by piece. Watching the good bones get their second life. She'd put her hand in mine and not say anything. And not saying anything had never felt so full. She told me later she barely slept that first night. That she lay in bed replaying the storm, the candle, the 8 words she'd said before her brain could stop her. By morning, she wasn't sure she hadn't dreamed it. Then she checked her phone and found the text I'd sent after I got home. Just one line. It was a strange and good night. I'm glad your legs were braver than your head. She read it 3 times. She kept it. A year later, almost to the day, I asked her to meet me at the theater. The restoration was finished. I'd had the crew leave one thing. The original marquee, lit up for the first time in 40 years, glowing gold against a sky just starting to rain. She stepped out of her car and stopped dead on the sidewalk, one hand going to her mouth. Caleb, you didn't. I might have. I knelt down right there under that old golden light, the rain tapping soft and steady the same way it had the night she walked through the wrong door. You once told me I wasn't enough, I said. That I was too steady, too quiet, too whole. And for a long time I believed you. My voice shook. But you came back through the wrong door to end something, and you stayed to start it. So I'd like to spend the rest of my life being exactly who I am, with the one person who finally figured out that was the thing she wanted all along. I opened the box. Marry me. Again. For real this time. She was nodding before I finished. Both hands pressed to her mouth. Crying and laughing the way people do when 2 feelings show up at once and neither will wait its turn. Yes, she said. Yes. I slid the ring on. She pulled me up by the front of my jacket and held on like she'd never made the mistake of letting go. And from across the street, leaning against her car with her phone held up, filming every second of it, was Jade, the blind date who sent the wrong woman to reject me, grinning through her own tears. "For the wedding video," she called out. "Somebody had to fix this whole thing. Turns out it was me." Diane laughed into my shoulder. The marquee glowed gold above us, and the rain kept falling soft against the glass. The same rain that started it all, the night my blind date sent my ex-wife to reject me. And she looked at me instead and said, "Why don't you take me out instead?"